All right, good afternoon, class. So today we're going to talk about grammar this time. So please take out your focus and turn to page 42. Now we're going to look at page 42 in your textbook. So this time we're going to talk about this grammar item, used to and would. So this one is a bit complicated, so pay attention. So we use these two expressions to talk about past actions or states. Okay, so past states and repeated actions. We look at the grammar box right away. So look at the grammar focus box here in the middle of the page. So there are two expressions, right? Used to and would. So we can use used to and an infinitive, which is a verb in its original form, or would an infinitive to talk about regular past actions that don't happen anymore. So the main point here is that action doesn't happen now. Okay, it doesn't happen anymore now. So let's look at the example. Harry used to go to school by bus. He'll leave the house at 8 a.m. So it when you look at these two sentences, it means that Harry now no longer takes the bus to go to school. Okay, he is now using other means to get to school. Okay, so he doesn't do that anymore, so we can use used to do something or would do something. All right, so remember, for actions, for regular past actions, we can use both used to and would. All right, and then there's one more thing to remember. Let's look at the second point. You can use used to plus an infinitive, but this time remember, not would. We cannot use would this way to talk about past states that are no longer true. Okay, so we are talking about states. For example, verbs that are like be is am, have or love or like. All right, so we use these verbs to describe or talk about states. All right, for example, Harry used to be a good student. So what does it mean? It means that Harry is now a bad student. He is no longer, he is not a good student now. Okay, so there are two ways to use it. And to make things clearer, please write this down on your book. Okay, write this down. This diagram will help you understand the concept better. Okay, so we start from here. Okay, so we are going to talk about things in the past. So if it is a regular past action, so which expressions can we use? Can we use used to? If it is an action, you look at the notes here. Yes, we can use that, right? So we can use used to and then the verb. How about would? If it is an action, then we can also use would. All right? So remember, for actions, we can use both used to and would plus an infinitive. But how about if it is a state? For example, these, be, have, and love, and like. Then we can, okay, I'll write down first. If it is a state that we can only use used to. Okay, so please use this diagram to help you understand this concept, right? And then let's take a look here. Don't use used to or would for single past actions. So what does it mean? If that action only happened once in the past, okay, once in the past, then we cannot use used to or would. So which tense do we use then? We can just use the simple past. All right, for example, this sentence, in 1963, my granddad bought his first car. So it happened only once. Okay, so we use simple past here. Okay, is that clear? Okay, good. Then we are going to look at question 4. Okay, so please look at the instruction clearly. We write the sentence using would. All right, if would is not possible, use used to. So what does it mean? Remember the diagram here. So for action, we can actually use used to and would, right? Normally. And for states, we use used to. But now the instructions say that we use would if possible. So normally, if it is an action here, okay, if it is an action, we use would. Okay. Normally, we can use both, used to and would, right? But here, according to these instructions, we can only use would for action. So if would is not possible, what does it mean? It means it is a state, right? Then we use used to, right? Is that clear? So pay attention to the instructions. We'll look at one example first. So the first one, air travel was cheaper than now. So first of all, we have to determine whether it is a state or an action. So air travel was cheaper. So is it a state or an action? So clearly it should be a state, right? So we can change it to used to be according to the instructions here. We change it to used to and then be cheaper. Okay, so can you now do question 2 to 6? If it is an action, then change it to would and then the infinitive. And then if it is a state, change it to used to and state. Okay, so now please pause the video and then do the questions, and then we'll come back and check the answers. Okay, so by now you should have finished the questions. All right, so we're going to look at the questions together now. Okay, so the second one, air travel was more comfortable. So first of all, is it a state or an action? Was, so it should be a state, right? So I'll write it here. It should be a state. So question 2, it should be air travel this is a state, right? So we change it to used to be more comfortable. Okay, we change was to used to be. All right, how about number 3? The flight from London to New York took longer. So action or state? Took, it should be an action, right? So if it's an action, then we change it to would. Okay, so the flight from London to New York, the flight from London to New York would take longer. All right, you change it to this one. And then 4, people smoked on the plane. So smoke is an action. All right, so according to the instructions here, we can only change it to would. So people would smoke on the plane. All right, action again. And then 5, people wore their best clothes to travel by air. So wore. It should be an action as well. Right, so we can only change it to would here. People would wear their best clothes to travel by air. All right, and then the last one, the last question, airports didn't have so many security checks. Didn't have, remember, look at the grammar box again. Here, okay, so for verbs like be, to have, and love and like, we use it to refer to states. Okay, so this time here, this is a state. So what can we do about it? We can only change it to, pay attention to the form. Okay, this one is a bit hard. So airports didn't used to have so many security checks. Okay, so for negative sentences, we have to use this form, didn't, used to, and then the infinitive. All right, so please check your answers and make sure you understand this concept. All right. Okay. So now we're going to look at question 6. Question 6 on the next page. All right. So for this one, I'm going to ask you to do the questions, and we won't check the answers in this video. Okay, I'm going to check the answers when school resumes later. Okay, so please write down homework. You have to fill in the blanks. Okay, follow the instructions carefully. So use would and verb where possible. So just like the last time. Okay, so here, if it is an action, you use would. All right. So use used to where would is not possible. So what does it mean? Used to. So we're using used to talk about states, right? And then this one, be careful, used to past simple where would or used to are not possible. So if both are not possible, so when, in what situations will we do this? Because it's a single past action, remember, single past action, it happened only once, so we can only use past simple. Okay, so for this one, this exercise, left or right, you have to do the questions in your book, and when school resumes, we're going to check the answers together. All right, and now, okay, please turn to page 118 of your book. 118 of your book. We will further explain these concepts. Okay, so turn to page 118 of your book. Let's look at the right hand side. Okay, so these explanations are clearer. Okay, so we'll look at them once again together. So the first one, we use used to and would to talk about past states or actions that happened regularly in the past. We use used to for states. Okay, for example, be, have, believe, like, love, or live, or actions. Okay, so used to can be used to talk about states and actions, right? For example, I didn't used to like traveling by plane. So like, remember, is a state. Okay. She used to write travel guides, but she doesn't anymore. So used to write travel guides. So write is an action. Okay, so for states and action, we can use used to. And how about the next one? We use would for actions, usually in affirmative sentences. So would is only for actions but not states. Okay, as a teenager, I would visit my grandma every Sunday. Okay, I would visit. So here, of course, we can also use used to visit. Why? Because we can use used to for actions, remember. Okay, so if it is not clear, you just look at the diagram we just drew here. Okay, look at this diagram, then it should be clearer. Okay, so we look at the sentence examples. Okay, so for the first one, affirmative, positive sentences. I used to go backpacking every summer. I would go backpacking every summer. They are the same. Okay, they carry the same meaning. Negative, for negative sentences, I didn't used to buy flight tickets online. So put a star here. Negative, we have to use didn't used to. Okay, didn't. Remember, there's no D here after use. Didn't used to buy. And yes, no questions. Did he used to go on holiday? Did he used to go? And then double H questions. What did he used to eat? Okay, did he used to do? And then subject questions. Who used to go camping? Who used to go camping? All right, so basically for yes, no questions, WH questions, and subject questions, we can only use used to. All right. And then this one, just a recap. When we are talking about a single past action, or when we don't want to emphasize the difference between the past and the present, we often use past simple. Okay, for example, I often traveled to China. Okay, I often travel to China. So I'm not telling you whether I am still doing it now. Okay, so you don't have any information about that. I just tell you in the past that I often traveled to China. Okay, or it happened once only. Okay. All right, then let's look at question 1 here. Use the prompts to write sentences with would. If it is not possible, use used to. So now please pause the video and write down the sentences in your GE book. All right, and then we will come back and check the answers. Okay. Okay, I think it's okay. Then, okay, we'll check the answers here. So I'll write it down on a single lines here. All right, so question 1, what should that be? Question 1. So we use would when possible. Okay, so would here, we're going to use it to talk about actions. So the sentence should be Jill would get home. Jill would get home at 7 p.m. every day. So remember, for actions, we can use used to and would, right? But according to the instructions here, we can only use would. And then number 2, so have. So what is have? We use have to talk about states, right? So here we can only use used to, but it is a negative sentences. So how should we write it? Negative sentences. We look at the box again. We should use this form here. Negative, this form. Okay, so the sentence should become, we didn't used to have a lot of money in those days. All right, because we're talking about states here. Okay, and then number 3, my family used to live next to. So live, it should be an action. So my family used to live. Sorry, it's a state, not action. Sorry, it's a state. So used to live next to a luxury hotel. Okay, and then 4, Damien not drink coffee in the past. So drink should be an action, right? So here negative statements again. So Damien didn't used to drink coffee in the past. Okay, negative sentences. And then 5, as a child I like reading adventure novels. So like is a state. So the sentence will become something like this. As a child I used to like reading, okay, adventure novels. All right, and then 6, my grandparents not travel by car. So travel is an action again, and then negative. So my grandparents didn't used to travel by car. Right, didn't used to do something. And then 7, excuse me. Okay, and then when I was a child, I'd be very shy. So states again. So when I was a child, I used to be very shy. Okay, a state again, used to be. Okay, the last one, they would go on summer camps. So go on summer camps. This one is an action, right? So according to the instructions, we can use would here. They would go on summer camps at primary school. Okay, but of course normally we can also use used to go, right? But here according to the instructions we can only use would for actions. Okay, so any questions? If you have, you can email me your questions. Okay, and then that's it for today. Remember to do this part. We'll check the answers when school resumes. It should be this part on page 42. All right, question 6. This will be your homework for today. All right, that's it for this lesson. I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.